Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Cheat Meal presented by Deep Fried Draft. My name is Brian Bosarge. As a little different format this week, we're going to review the games I watched from Championship Week this past week, but there will be no preview. We'll talk about that later. Um, we're going to talk about the 21 new names added to the Senior Bowl uh, invitation acceptance list this week. We're also going to talk about some coaching news and the Deep Fried Draft Rookie of the Week. So let's start with Championship Week games, and we're going to start with Colorado and Washington in the Pac-12 Championship game, in which Washington dominated Colorado the entire game, despite a bad night from their sophomore quarterback, Jake Browning. Their run game was in full effect, however. You probably know about their sophomore running back, Myles Gaskin, but junior running back Lavon Coleman is a player as well. Coleman had 101 yards and a touchdown in this game. He and Gaskin combined for 269. They're not similar players. Gaskin is more of a run wide, can get up inside guy, but Coleman seems to be more of a one cut go, hit the hole quick type of running back. Conference USA Championship game, Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky. I ended up not watching this game because I realized I had watched the same matchup earlier in the year. This will also apply to the Mountain West Conference Championship game, where I had set up to watch Wyoming and San Diego State before I realized I watched them play each other 3 weeks ago. So I just ixnayed both of those games because no sense in doing what I'd already done. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. So this ended up being the Big 12 title game by default. Senior Oklahoma wide receiver D.D. Westbrook is one of the top big play threats in the country. He caught a pass in the second quarter where he just basically put a stop and start move on the corner, and the guy just went down like he just got crossed over, and he finished it off for a 69-yard TD. In the second quarter, he took what was a legal hit over the middle and never came back into the game. I don't know if he was injured bad or if he got a concussion. I never really heard why he didn't come back in the game. An FCS second round game, Youngstown State and Jacksonville State. Youngstown State senior defensive end Derek Rivers, who I've talked about a lot on here. A guy who I written up a DFD recipe on earlier this year. He slowly, in my eyes, has become a better run defender as the season's gone on, and this is now probably the 7th or 8th game where I've just watched Derek Rivers. He's already a very talented pass rusher. I hope he gets a Senior Bowl invite. If not, he should at least get a Shrine Game invite. If he does and has a great week at the Senior Bowl, he could sneak into the top 100. If not for everybody, at least for me. I want to see him against top competition. Another FCS second round game that I watched this week was Villanova and South Dakota State. And I went into this game having no idea of any South Dakota State prospects, and I came away very impressed with their junior tight end, Dallas Goedert. I'm not really sure of the pronunciation. He's 6'4", 250. He jumped out to me big time in this game. He's a good route runner, showed reliable hands. He's not a burner. He could be a sleeper prospect in the 2018 draft. Villanova senior defensive end Tannoy Passigno left the game with an injury in the first half, but he did return in the second half. Baylor and West Virginia was not a championship game of any sorts. Their Baylor junior wide receiver KD Cannon, he's got blazing speed. He doesn't run much of the NFL route tree, as no receiver that's ever going to come out of that Baylor system will. He also drops too many passes, in my opinion. But his positives do outweigh his negatives. He blew by West Virginia senior corner Antonio Crawford for a big TD in this game. I'd expect him to declare, if for no other reason, to get away from the Waco dumpster fire that's currently in progress. Baylor, I read a nice funny note. Miami of Ohio started this year 0-6. They finished with 6 wins to finish 6-6 to go bowling. Baylor started out 6-0. They lost their next 6 games. They're now going bowling at 6-6. Alabama and Florida in the SEC championship game, and the Alabama defense and special teams nearly outscored Florida by themselves. And outside of the opening drive, they dominated this entire game, bell to bell. So it's no shock that they'll be the #1 team going to the college football playoff. ACC championship game was Clemson and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech junior quarterback Gerard Evans is a guy I talked about a few weeks back. He had a good game. He's still got a ton of work to do, but you see the traits, you see the arm, you see the size, and he's a guy that you know an NFL team is going to fall in love with during the process. But I think he needs to continue to learn from Justin Fuente and that offensive staff at Virginia Tech and continue to get better. Fuente's staff developed Paxton Lynch into what became my #1 quarterback in last year's draft, and I feel like they can do the same thing with Gerard Evans. Penn State and Wisconsin. A player that caught my eye a couple weeks ago stood out to me again tonight, and that was Penn State junior tight end number 88, Mike Gesicki. He has excellent body control, is a good route runner, has nice hands, got great size at 6'5", 252. I don't think he's going to blaze a fast 40. If he declares, I think he'll move into the mid-second round conversation, and what is already a loaded tight end class. This may be, it will be up there with one of the best tight end classes I've seen. It's definitely going to be the best tight end class I've seen since I started Deep Fried Draft. So that's going to do it with our game reviews for this week. Let's get to some coaching news where Indiana let go their coach Kevin Wilson after back-to-back 6-6 seasons, but it turns out this had nothing to do with on-field performance. There seems to be some reports coming out about how their treatment of his treatment of injured players, alienating injured players, trying to make them come back too soon, stuff of that nature. So that's why he was let go. He was immediately replaced by their defensive coordinator, Tom Allen. Cincinnati head coach Tommy Tuberville resigned because he was going to get fired. So Cincinnati should be a place that they should be able to get a quality head coach in there. Speaking of quality head coaches, I did not think Purdue would be able to knock it out of the park, but they did when they hired Western Kentucky head coach Jeff Brom. Brom runs a great offensive system. He adapts to his personnel very well, and I think that he will have success in time at Purdue. This week's Deep Fried Draft Rookie of the Week is going to be, barring something crazy happening in the Colts-Jets game tonight, Chicago Bears running back Jordan Howard, who had 32 carries for 117 and 3 touchdowns against the 49ers. All right, let's talk about the Senior Bowl invites. 21 names added this week. Only 20 of which will play. Chad Kelly has accepted an invite, the Ole Miss quarterback, but he has a torn ACL and will not be able to play in the game. Now, in the past, and I know for one example was Aaron Murray a few years ago, and in the case of Chad Kelly, who has a lot of image rehab to do, it would behoove him to come to Mobile and get in front of teams and interview and go through the process of the game week. I think that'll help him out a lot. But obviously he won't be able to practice or play in the games. Now, to the 20 players who will be able to play the game, we'll start at the top with Alabama outside linebacker Ryan Anderson. currently my number 3 rated outside linebacker, and currently I think will be a mid to late first round pick as a pass rusher. Anderson is also a local player to the Senior Bowl as he played at Daphne High School. We have Isaac Asiata, a guard from offensive guard from Utah. Another quarterback accepted invitation today, and it's C.J. Beathard from Iowa. Senior Bowl's gonna have a hard time getting the quality of senior quarterbacks available to them is not high, and that's where you get my current number 17 quarterback, C.J. Beathard. Offensive tackle that I'm a little sour on right now. Not saying that I can't come around, but offensive tackle for Pittsburgh, Adam Biznawati, not a guy I'm a big fan of. A guy I am a fan of is Chattanooga defensive end Keontae Davis. And an even bigger fan, and I'm definitely a bigger fan of his than most in the draft community, but LSU wide receiver Traven Durrell is a guy who I think has first-round potential. So interested to see him in Mobile. Miami cornerback Corn Elder has had a great year. The cornerbacks here at the Senior Bowl, it could be one of the top position groups here. A guy who was announced to go to the Shrine Game last week goes to the Senior Bowl this week, and that's Troy offensive tackle Antonio Garcia. I have watched 0 games of his or anybody for Troy from that matter. So I'll try to get to them in the bowl game to at least watch one game of his. Texas A&M defensive end Deshaun Hall, a guy who gets overshadowed completely by his teammate Myles Garrett, but has a very good pass rusher. We spoke of him last week as a guy who who is not talked about a whole lot in this running back class because it's so deep, and that's Toledo running back Kareem Hunt. So a chance for him to impress at the Senior Bowl. Miami offensive guard Danny Isadora. Another Miami player that I have not concentrated on at all is their safety Rayshawn Jenkins. A talented defensive tackle from Iowa, Jaleel Johnson, will be here, one of my top 5 defensive tackles for this year's draft currently. Another safety who I've not seen a whole lot of is Boston College safety John Johnson. Cornerback from Lamar, Brendan Langley. I want to say that he was originally at Georgia and may have been kicked out. I don't know if that is indeed the case, but he will be at the Senior Bowl. Florida safety Marcus May, very, very talented safety prospect. Hassan Reddick, a defensive end / outside linebacker from Temple. Currently my number 9 rated outside linebacker prospect, but he is very well thought of in the draft community. Fred Ross, wide receiver from Mississippi State. Nico Siragusa, an offensive guard from San Diego State, who I'm going to say I probably have rated too low right now. But I need to dive more into the interior offensive line class, and he's a guy who could elevate as things go forward. And I've spoken about him multiple times, and I heard the rumor was he had gotten the invite, is a Bucknell offensive tackle Julian Davenport, and he's a guy I think could really turn some heads in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Just humongous size, long arms. He's a dominator in the run game. I want to see him in the one-on-one pass rush sets at Senior Bowl practice. I spoke about doing things a little different this week. Next week, about this time, we're going to have a big bowl game preview where I'm going to talk about the majority of the 40 bowl games. And when I say majority, I'm currently, right now, I have 37 of the 40 bowl games that I will preview. There's 3 games I'm leaving out because there's either not enough prospects to bother with, or just that's probably the main reason. The current plan right now is to review bowl games a few at a time by posting quick snack videos, not the cheat meal video, like a full video like this, but some 7 to 10 minute videos, just trying to hit 3 or 4 games, reviewing them at one time. So Those will probably be, will either be on maybe Facebook, probably not Facebook Live, but Periscope on Twitter, or maybe I just post them direct to YouTube, but you can look for them there. So that's all the time we're going to have for this week. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Deep Fried Draft. Search on YouTube by either my name, Brian Bosarge, or Deep Fried Draft to find all our videos. And you can subscribe to our videos, and then you can click the notification thing to get an alert to let you know to watch our video. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.